Thanks for tuning in to this episode of I Have Something to Say, where subject matter experts are unafraid and unapologetic about sharing their perspectives regarding issues that impact our lives. They speak up because basically they give a shit. So if you're tired of canned answers and want to finally hear real people cut through the BS and talk about real issues, this is the podcast for you. I'm your host, Samí Haiman-Marrero from Urbander, and behind our mixer is our producer, Chris Majocha from UdoU.
It is my honor, it is my absolute privilege to be able to introduce to you the woman that I've been married to for over 32 years. A person who is a mother. We have 3 children, 5 grandchildren. A woman who, in her own rights, has made her own way here. The youngest of 7 children, a woman who was the first female president of the police academy here in this community, a woman who became the first and only woman to have served as chief of police in the city of Orlando. And a woman who has now been serving in her 2nd term in the 116th Congress of the United States of America. That woman represents Florida's Congressional District 10. And of course, I'm talking about our very own, the Honorable Congresswoman Val Demings.
I want to say good evening officially to all of you and let you know that I am honored, absolutely privileged to represent you in the 116th session of the House of Representatives. But I gotta tell you, there is no place like home. There is no place like home. And I want to thank you for bringing us together. Tonight, we are facing some serious issues. It's a critical time for our nation. And one thing I know for sure is that with all of the efforts to divide us, we are so much better. And I believe that we can do anything. I believe, commissioners, that we can do everything. That we are totally categorically unstoppable.
That's right.
If we work together.
Right.
And we need that more now. You know, we hear it a lot. Okay, we need it, the other election was, or whatever we're dealing with. But we need it more now than ever before. You know, it's a pretty big honor to be introduced by the mayor.
Come on.
And the amazing part, I didn't know he was going to be here tonight. I know that you all probably think that we sit at home with our calendars and synchronize our calendars. We are way too busy for that. And so when he came through the door tonight, I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, what are you doing?" "I'm doing the same thing you're doing here." I said, "Okay." But it's a great night, and Doug, I want to thank you too. You know, it's so easy to get so busy and everybody's doing their own thing and going in a whole different lot of directions. But Doug has for years made a serious effort to bring us together on First Friday. And so let's again give Doug a round of applause for that. We are celebrating Women's History Month. And we ought to be excited about that because women do have a history worth celebrating. And we're also celebrating International Women's History Day on today. And so I stand before you tonight as one of those women, but I want to celebrate women everywhere because women have done some pretty amazing things. When we think about women throughout our history, you know, we have some challenges today and things can get tough and difficult. We say, how am I going to make it? How am I going to do that? But if we look historically, at what women have done in this country, the roles that they have played when the laws were not on their side. Nobody was on their side, pretty much. But we are right, we are celebrating 100 years of the women's suffrage movement, giving women the right to vote, right? And so when we look historically, women have done some amazing things, and so we celebrate them today. And we use their legacy, hopefully as a springboard, to propel us into addressing some of the challenges that we face on today. We live in the greatest nation in the world. And I do believe that to be true. We live in the greatest nation in the world because of the form of government that the framers of the Constitution chose to have. And while the framers had their issues, those men, they had their issues. They had a brilliant idea about the form of government, the kind of government that they wanted to have. They wanted a government of the people. They did not seek to be a king, to be under kingship. They'd experienced that. They didn't want a monarch. They'd experienced that. They wanted a government of the people, by the people, and for the people, which meant the people. The power of this nation is in the hands of the people. But it doesn't mean much if the people don't exercise the power that they have. So one of the things I came tonight to tell you is to know your power. Because we need you now more than ever before. A government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I'm reminded of the convention in 1786 when the framers of the Constitution were deliberating. And people were waiting outside and wanting to see what was going on, what was going to happen. And when Benjamin Franklin stepped outside, someone from the crowd yelled, "Well, what kind of government do we have?" And he said, "A republic, if we can keep it." One of the things that I have learned, especially during the last few months, serving our nation and serving you as one of the House impeachment managers, is that while we have the best form of government, I've learned that we have a form of government that is very fragile. It's very fragile. But the thing that separates us is the democracy that we have. And I can tell you, as a member of the Homeland Security Committee, as a member of House Judiciary, and as a member of the Committee on Intelligence, I am going to do everything within my power to protect the Constitution, uphold the rule of law, and protect our democracy. I've taken 4 oaths in my lifetime. I took 2 as a law enforcement officer, 1 as a police officer, 1 as a chief of police, and 2 as a member of Congress. I've taken those oaths very, very seriously. While I spend 4 to 5 days a week in Washington, D.C., doing the work of the people, there is not one day that I don't think about you. There's not one day that I don't think about families that have to go to work every day just to keep a roof over their head and food on the table. There's not one day that I don't think about making sure that people who have to go to work every day make a wage that's truly livable. And that's why in the House of Representatives we passed the minimum wage of $15 an hour. We're waiting on the Senate on a lot of things, but we're waiting on the Senate to do something. One of the first fights that I had involved the protection of the Affordable Care Act. Now we can argue all day long about, what's the best health care system. But what I can tell you, if we truly do live in the greatest country in the world, every person living in the greatest country in the world should be covered by health care. And nobody should have to go to another country to be able to afford prescription drugs, life-saving medication.
Come on, that's right. That's right.
We live in the greatest country in the world. That means you should be able to go to church, to synagogue, be able to go to a movie, a concert, to be able to go to the mall, to be able to go to elementary school, high school, or be able to go to a nightclub in Orlando and celebrate with your friends and not have to worry about being gunned down by a man who should have never had a gun in the first place. And so I want you to know, as we celebrate women, Women History Month, we are celebrating more women in the House of Representatives than ever before. A beautiful, diverse group of women who reflect the beautiful diversity in our country. Doggone it, if we're going to represent you, then we ought to look like you. And so we are so proud of the work that you all have allowed me to do. We have some tough days in Congress. You know, as a law enforcement officer, we knew clearly what was right and what was wrong, whether we did right all the time or not. In Congress, there are a whole lot of people who spend a lot of time trying to make wrong look right and right look wrong. But I am very clear-eyed about what's right and what the people that I represent, what keeps you up all night, the things that you worry about. So know this, that I will continue to work for you. I will continue to be a voice for you. I will continue to fight for public education. We can fight for alternative education because families should be able to send their children anywhere they want to. But doggone it, we do know that the majority of our children will go through the public school system. And we need to make sure that they can get a quality education in public school and that we pay teachers what they are. And so when we think about the things that the government of the people, those things that people need and people care about, rest assured that I will continue to fight for you and speak out for you and be a voice for you. And I thank you for being there for me since January 3rd of 2017 when I was sworn in, but especially when I served as an impeachment manager. One thing I knew for sure, we were under the weather, we were sleep deprived, but I knew that Orlando was cheering me on, and I thank you so much for that. May God bless you, and God continue to bless this country.
Everybody, try to come inside because you're going to have a wonderful opportunity to listen to a very successful entrepreneur, a very good friend of us, someone that we like very much, used to be one of our board members as well, Miss Samí Haiman-Marrero. Will you kindly come to the podium?
Yes, of course.
Samí has a history here of being a very impressive entrepreneur woman. We consider her more than a friend. Almost my daughter.
Yes.
Almost my daughter. So
I wanted to marry her to my papi. Yes. But he passed away before we could hook them up. You know? Pero está bien. We tried.
yes, we tried. But anyhow, just give her a very big applause because you're going to enjoy.
No necesito
her
esto.
lecture. No.
Okay. I don't need it, right? Porque soy bocona, yo lo sé. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Samí. Can you hear me? Okay, I know my husband hears me because I say stop all the time and he's sick of hearing my mouth. But in any event, Zulma called me like 2 days ago to tell me, mira nena, I need to ask you for a favor. And I said, of course, whatever you want. And she's like, I need you to speak at the first Friday of the month in Alianza. Y yo, que chavienda, you know? And I said, great. You don't give me any notice here. And she said, no, but let me give you the topic. And she told me it was Women's History Month. And so I was excited, but I was kind of like, meh, because everybody's kind of talking about Women's History Month this March. But then she told me, no, it's with a twist, because you can Latinize it, right? And make it for Latinas. If you all want to twist a little bit over here, you can shimmy, or like politicians do, you can pivot your seats this way, you know, so you can see the full presentation. And so, okay, that sounds cool. I can do that, right? And so I started thinking about who was gonna be here. And she told me all of these wonderful commissioners, elected officials, that Congresswoman Demings was gonna be here. And I'm like, okay, these are my sheroes, right? I said, so I was gonna wear my cape. I said, so then let's all be sheroes, because quite frankly, all of the women here are sheroes in my eyes, right? And so aplauso for that. So whether you were born here in the US or you migrated to the US, at the end of the day, I feel like here in the US of A, we all have one female that we can all look up to, and that's my friend, Lady Liberty. Libertad. And she actually represents what we all aspire for, right? Freedom, to stand tall, to represent our people. All people, in a welcoming, embracing environment. And that's how I was received into this country. I was born in 1970. Yeah, don't do the math. I turned 50 this year in May. So you're all invited to mi cincuentañero, okay? And my parents were first generation Latinos, what they call New Yorkers, born and raised in the South Bronx in New York, and that's where I was born. Okay, so we all stand on the shoulders of women before us that paved the way, right? And kept on embedding in our lifestyles those values that we hold dear in our community. And so until the age of 8 years old, I lived in the Bronx, the asphalt jungle, with the bodega on the corner, talking English to my mama, and she would respond, my grandma, in Spanish, and that was just all I knew. I was English dominant and just enjoying my life in the Bronx until my parents had the bright idea of picking us up and moving us to another jungle in Ciales, Puerto Rico, in the middle of freaking nowhere, okay? We were in a farm with mountains all over the place, 23 acres, not a single neighbor until at least a mile and a half away, no running water, no electricity. And at 8 years old, I said to myself, ¿Qué carajo es esto? If you don't understand what I just said, just turn to your right and the first cara de plátano that you see, just adopt them as your interpreter, okay? And so there I was, okay? There I was in the middle of nowhere, and my story is not unique, right? We all have a story, okay? And I just want to share mine with you today. So I grew up in Ciales, Puerto Rico, surrounded by the community that quickly embraced me, because that's how we are, right? Collective societies, we love on each other. We love to love on each other. Until I grew up, went to college, and I graduated with a master's degree from the University of Puerto Rico. And so then here I am, 21 years old. I was cute as hell, okay? I was bilingual, okay? And I had a master's degree, and I thought I was hot shit, okay? And so then I says, you know what? I'm gonna move to New York City, which is the New York capital of the world, and say hi to my friend, Lady Liberty, who had welcomed me into this world, and pursue a career in media. And like Isa, within 3 weeks, I landed a job. Pero me oyen? I don't need, what? I don't need a mic. No, está bien. Se lo pierden. Se lo pierden. In 3 weeks, I found a job. And I was so excited because my dream was coming true. Until I walked into the offices of the biggest publishing company, Time Inc., working for People en Español, and I realized that it was basically run by white men. And I said, ¿qué carajo es esto? Okay? And so I was like, all I could see was this wall of white men, and all I realized was that to them I was invisible. They couldn't see me. So I was like, ¿y ahora qué yo hago? What in the world am I gonna do with this situation, right? Because Sam Haiman and Miriam Haiman did not raise me to be invisible, right? Like I'm sure your parents didn't raise you to be invisible either. So I said, okay, I need to find myself a mentor. And I looked around and long and hard, and I couldn't find anybody that looked like me. Not one person that reflected what I understood was my identity, una Latina, profesional, right? A professional Latina. So what did I do? My father is half Jewish, half Puerto Rican, and so I went to the closest thing I could find, which was a Jewish woman that was the VP of the department I worked for, and her name is Betty Rockborn. And so I got close to her, and I was hanging out tight to try to learn as much as I could. And what I learned from watching her and listening to her were very valuable lessons, because I was desperate to not be invisible anymore. And it was to define my worth. Used to tell me, Samí, find something that you're really, really good at, okay? And craft and become a master of your craft. I said, okay, I could figure that out. Back then, it was that the Latino population was growing, as it is now, but back then it was only 10% of the population. We're talking in the late 90s, okay? The second thing is she told me, Samí, stop beating around the bush. She was tough, like a Jewish grandma, you know? She was really tough. Stop beating around the bush. You need to talk clearly, precisely, and concisely, because these guys aren't gonna listen to you, okay? You gotta get to the point. Okay, chévere. So I learned how to do that. She told me, look at the bottom line. All they care is about money. So make sure you know how to evaluate and communicate data, okay? And I said, okay. So I learned how to do that. So basically, I was like, pero ven acá. So basically, she's telling me to become a dude, to become like them, right? To emulate their behavior. And then and not that women can't do that, but there weren't many women at that level there, right? And then last but not least, to avoid being typecast. Hence, my signature moño and pantsuit for when I do business, because I didn't want to fall into the trap of being perceived as Sofia. Okay, we love Sofia, bendito Sofia, you know, but I didn't want people to hear me speak and hear, pero Jay, why is it that people make fun of me when my hand hurts and I say that I have carpal tunnel? Okay, pero Jay, why is this a blessing in the sky? You know, and all of those things, because that's what they hear, okay, with the heavy accent. And then what happened? I kept on working and working and working, trying to prove myself and to be seen until the 2000 census came. Y ay, Dios mío, they were saying, ¿qué carajo es esto? Because the numbers of Latinos in this country had grown exponentially. The data was already out, and they had no idea what the hell to do with that. And then they looked at my cara de plátano and they say, hey, you, ven acá, come over here. Do you know anything about what the hell is going on here at a national level? I said, yeah, I know a thing or two, right? And so I was welcomed into the club. And I thought, again, I made it. Making six figures, I was rolling with the big bosses and all of that, you know, being considered in big meetings, but not completely, because it came with a price. I realized when I started sharing with my peers that were male, that I was underpaid. When I'm doing the same job, I realized that I was being overlooked for the real opportunities. I realized I started being harassed by my peers with comments that were out of line. I was even verbally attacked by my superiors with yelling. That's a whole other story. We need to have a drink for that one, okay? I was blocked from opportunities And I was even mocked. And mocked. Bless you. And so I tried to look at the silver lining though. I said, okay, espérate. I was invisible and I'm not invisible anymore. Now I feel like I'm an armadillo, you know? And why? Because I was able to develop a thick skin to withstand all that nonsense, okay? And I don't know if you know, but armadillos are hard on the outside, you know, and they can resist los golpes. But they're fuzzy in the inside, and I'm kind of fuzzy in the inside too, right? So I'm fuzzy or lovey-dovey. Fuzzy. No te, mira, el baño está allí a la derecha, tú tienes que ir. Okay? So I'm all fuzzy in the inside, but with becoming an armadillo, I also developed the armadillo's keen sense of smell. And basically is that when I put on my visor, I could smell and see bullshit a mile away. It was great. So anyway, so let me take that off, right? Right now, it was great, you know, because being surrounded by so much of it, you just develop that power. And so that's one of my superpowers, okay? In 2004, because of the hustle, I was able to move to Orlando, still working for a New York company. I was working for the New York Post. And so I was still making the great salary, and it was fantastic. I was living la vida loca. You know, I was like, oh my God, this is great. But then, in 2008, I was a victim of the recession. And I was one of the millions that lost their job. Yes, so it was, I had two choices. Either I moved back to New York to keep my job or stay here in Orlando where I had already been living for 4 years, but I hadn't real connections with the community because I was traveling all over the place, okay? I already had my son. I said, nah, we'll stay here, we'll figure it out. I could get a job. I have 10 years of experience. I'm a hotshot executive, right? But I started looking for work here in Orlando, and I faced a hard reality. And it's that in 2008, it was pretty much run, and still today, you know, by white men. And I said to myself again, ¿Qué carajo es esto? Huh? So then I had no other option. I launched Urbander, my business, because I had to provide for my family. And I have to thank Scott, my husband, because he's always been the wind beneath my wings. Yeah. And so when I started my business, again, I had no roots here. So I started to panic. I'm like, oh my God, how the hell am I gonna do this? You know, and for a nanosecond, I felt invisible. But then I said, espérate, no, tranquila, you got this. Because remember, I'm an armadillo. I'm tough, I can hustle, okay? I can hustle. And then in 2009, my daughter was born. And that took on a whole other dimension because it became very real. You see, she's not invisible. And I was pissed off, okay? She's not invisible, okay? So I need to make this happen with God's help. And then I became a warrior, okay? I put the blade between my teeth, and so help me God, we're gonna make this happen, okay? And so we hustled and hustled and hustled, y ay, Dios mío, well, nothing would give until the 2010 census came again, and what happened? The Latino community grew again, exponentially, and all of a sudden, businesses, big hospital networks, okay, were my first clients here in Orlando that I had been knocking on those doors. Finally called back and he says, hey, you've been talking about this Hispanic market thing, okay? Could you come over here and help us out? Because we have no idea what the hell we're doing. I said, sure. Y me puse la capa, you know? And I showed up to do my thing. And that's what we've experienced in the last 10 years now, right? After the 2010, you know, people are calling it the big shift, and it's that minority markets are now have just reached in 2018, $4 trillion in buying power. Okay, that's a very robust and strong consumer segment. Nosotros tenemos chavo, okay? Number two, In 2019, just that last year, half of the students from K to 12 in public schools in this country are black or brown. Okay? It tipped over. It tipped over, okay? And so now in 2020, we're going to see a bigger takeover. I mean, shift. You shift. Be nice, Nancy. Okay, Nancy. Our shift. And this is how it goes. Projections for April 2020. Mira, but we know this. In Orange, 1 of every 3 people. Wow. In Osceola, half of the population. In Seminole, 20% of the population. And that's only Hispanics. If we include black and brown, forget it. It's a done deal. And let's look at the projections for Miami.
Wow.
Okay? A eso vamos, mi gente. The numbers don't lie. Okay, the numbers don't lie. And a little unknown secret. In many hospitals across the country that are very dense, 1 out of every 2 babies is black or brown. Okay? Just so you know, that's what's causing it. So what's my message to you today? What Congresswoman Demings was saying before, it's time that we exercise our influence and leadership. Yes. We are literally the matriarchs of the next generation of Americans. This is happening, people, and it's no joke. Okay, so we need to own it. Okay, pónganse la capa, even if it's imaginary. When you leave the house every morning, stand tall. Okay, put the blade between your teeth. Okay, and make this happen. And so what's our role? Now that we're celebrating Women's History Month, our role is to educate others. When people are offensive and say comments and have a skank attitude and all this stuff, just pause for a minute, take a deep breath, and smile. And let it go and educate. Say, excuse me. That's how we do it in my culture. You know? Okay, don't get offended. Don't engage. Take the high road. Another E, embrace others. We need to be open, you know, to learn about other cultures and try to knock down all those stereotypes that have been put upon us, okay, and dispel them in other communities. All together. We have the power because we're strong in numbers. Y somos las mamás. Again. Yeah? ¿Verdad? We're all here, la mamá. And if you're not a mom, you're a tía, an abuela, a madrina. Okay, take off la chancleta y a cantazo limpio. Okay, let's teach our children how to embrace others. Edify. Edify your neighbor. Edify community. Okay, don't get so caught up like I did when I was in the corporate sector, living la vida loca, having a good old time. Okay, but like this. I wouldn't stop for 1 second to look at my neighbor. But those days were over cuando me tocó a mí, when it happened to me. I paused and I said, never again. I'm committed to my community, and I urge you to be committed to community. Okay, pause and look at people in the eye. Ask questions, and let's edify them. Embed. These are my kids now. Those cultural values that make us so distinct and so special. Make sure that that's our main inheritance to our kids. Okay, that they don't forget where they came from and that they value culture and their history, which is what grounds them and gives them roots. And exercise your vote. Okay, exercise it. Drag your family members, everybody. Es la responsabilidad de nosotras las mujeres. Okay, us women need to make sure that our people go out to vote. And can I tell you something? I'm going to take it there. There's 62 million Latinos in this country right now. Technically, and I'm just saying, we can have our own damn party if we want to. I'm just saying, just an idea, okay? I know. I'm known to be media fresca, so I'm just taking it. Okay? So in the end, listen, We're not invisible. The key point is we're not invisible. We're actually invincible.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
We're invincible. And so today, as we leave here, I'm hoping that that this has sunk in, right? That we take it seriously because, you know, I'm making light of it, but this is serious stuff, okay? And that we make our friend Libertad, proud, okay? By giving honor to the words that are on the plate by her feet, which is, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Thank you. What? Ahí. And so now, I know we have a gazillion sheroes here, but I want to really recognize our commissioners and our elected officials. So you definitely have earned your own pay. Here you go. What am I missing? Here you go. Yes. Am I missing anyone? Where's Maribel? So we need to save this for Maribel, okay? Thank you so much. La quiero y no se olviden, okay? Okay, chévere.
Don't move. This is fantastic. I told you, I wanted everybody to be here because, you know, she's so great. And we have to give the same message to every woman that we find in our way. Please, I'm willing to get...
This concludes this episode of I Have Something to Say. We want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to tell your friends about us. We're on Spotify and iTunes as well. There's more to come next week. And remember, if you have something to say, it's time to speak up.